Hi, my name is Peter Agricola. I'm an area sales manager for ShoreTel. And today we're going to whiteboard setting up a ShoreTel pure IP solution. The reason why we do this is there's a lot of misconceptions about what a pure IP solution is. So we're going to draw out the various piece parts that go into building a ShoreTel system. In fact, they're very pertinent for anybody who's drawing out any IP system, but since we work for ShoreTel, we're going to concentrate on ShoreTel today. And we're going to fill in some of the ideas where ShoreTel is very strong. Things like reliability and simplicity and total cost of ownership and commitment to world-class customer satisfaction all come into play as we draw this out. So some of what's been done on the board has already been pre-drawn out. So we're going to start from a really basic level. When you talk with a customer, you want to talk to them about what a pure IP solution is. A lot of times you'll go into a customer situation and the first thing a customer will say is, I want to save money on long distance. Well, that can be a very short meeting because nobody's going to be making a decision to buy voice over IP based on long distance savings. But we can give them a lot more reasons to go with voice over IP. And this, again, this presentation, this drawing is to knock out some of the perceptions that they have. So, as you build a ShoreTel system, the first thing you're going to build out is a ShoreGear switch, okay, which I've already drawn out on the board just to make things a little bit easier for the presentation. And we don't go into the numbers of what the ShoreGear switches are. It creates too much complexity. So when you do this presentation, don't go into what a 120 by 24 means or a 60 by 12 means. Simply talk about ShoreGear switches. And the first thing you should point out when you're talking about ShoreGear switches is it's a ShoreGear switch. It's not a ShoreGear server. There's an inherent reliability difference or an availability difference when you're talking switches to servers. So the first thing I like to highlight when I'm talking about a ShoreGear switch by itself is what the reliability or availability of a ShoreGear switch is. By themselves, a ShoreGear switch is 99.999% reliable, or 5 nines reliable is the term of the day. That's much more reliable than a server. A server is about 99.9% reliable, which equates to much more downtime during the course of a year. Also, switches don't have a hard drive, and they're not running Windows or Linux, so they're not prone to the blue screen of death, physical memory is being dumped, things along those lines. There's an inherent difference that you have to stress to the customers that they're getting with a switch-based technology. Something to point out, you don't want to minimize it, but you don't also want to maximize it, is that there is a server involved in the ShoreTel architecture. We draw it over here, and we highlight it as AS, or an application server. It houses applications like unified messaging, and voicemail, and computer telephony integration, and auto attendance, and director. However, it's not vital providing dial tone. If you lose this server, you still have dial tone. You still have the ability to make and take calls. If you have a server, and this server fails, then everybody's lost dial tone. You've lost your ability to talk to the outside world. Okay? So as you build a ShoreTel system, it's very modular. It's done for a very specific function. You build ShoreGear switches by adding additional ShoreGear switches. It doesn't matter the size for this particular demonstration. It just matters that as you grow, you continue to add ShoreGear switches to your network. And that's how you grow. Okay? Now, so what are the components here? There's a lot of acronyms that are on the board, and I'm going to explain what these acronyms are, because your customers are going to want to know what these are. Your ShoreGear phones, which are up here, are not directly connected to the ShoreGear switch. They're actually connected to a power over Ethernet LAN switch with QoS. Power over Ethernet is abbreviated here as PoE with QoS. QoS is quality of service. And quality of service is going to be a constant theme when you're talking about voice over IP. It's something you have to stress to your customers, that they need to have QoS, quality of service, on both their LAN and on their WAN, which we'll get to in a second. So the connectivity you have is from a ShoreGear switch to a power over Ethernet switch, and that power over Ethernet switch is connected to an IP ShoreTel telephone. Okay? So what does this mean? It means we are IP here. Okay? We're talking about an IP phone system. We've got IP phones. Okay? So that's one component of IP. As you start to add other sites, and we've got a branch location and a remote location, they're going to need to be connected. And how are they connected? They are connected with an IP, Internet Protocol, WAN, wide area network with, guess what? With QoS, with quality of service. Okay? A very important component here is quality of service. Another acronym we have here is MPLS. It's simply a data network that prioritizes voice over other traffic. Voice is a real-time application. So why do you need quality of service when you're doing voice over IP? You need quality of service so when you speak, your words arrive at the same time that you send them. So you don't have choppy conversations that go like that. Okay? It's like a bad movie where things are badly dubbed. And again, it's meant to be funny here, but business conversations have to have a certain quality. People are used to the TDM world, which is called time division multiplexing, where you've got a very, very reliable network where your voice always gets to the party when it's intended to get there. If you bring down that quality, your chances of selling voice over IP become minimized. Okay? So we've got IP to the desktop, and we've got IP to the various sites. And this can be as many or as few sites as you're going to have. Okay? So it can be 1, it can be 2, it can be 5, it can be 10, it can be 20. They're all going to be connected via an IP WAN that's going to have QoS. So we've got two components here that are IP. Now, the misconception that people have is, well, am I going to be using the internet to make my telephone calls? Well, as it stands today, probably not, though we'll get to that in a second. So how am I going to be communicating to the outside world? Well, you're going to be communicating to the outside world in almost the same exact fashion that you are today. Okay? This last switch I built here is a ShoreGear T1 or PRI box. Okay? It takes telephony service from your local provider, whoever it happens to be. It can be a Verizon or an AT&T, or it can be a local provider like a Paytech or something along those lines. And it will bring in one pipe that will give you 23 talk paths, 23 connections to the outside world. Okay? So this is a PRI, and guess what? This is not an IP service. This is a digital service. It is tried and true and has been around for some time. Okay? You're going to use this service because it is what's available today. It's what's reliable today. The advantages you get with IP come from your ability to do it over your WAN and the combination of putting IP to the desktop. There's certain advantages which we'll talk about in a bit. But you're still using a digital facility here, which is giving you very, very high reliability, high availability at the end of the day. You're also probably going to be putting in addition to your digital facilities here, you're also going to be putting in analog trunks or analog lines. It's called POT service, which is a fancy way of saying plain old telephone service. It's the oldest technology that's out there, but it's extremely reliable. So if something were to happen to your PRI or something were to happen to your other facilities, you're going to have the ability to make outbound calls. Okay? So you're going to have, again, analog trunks. Depending on the number of people you have, number of people you're supporting in a building, really determines the number of analog trunks that you're going to have in a particular building. So again, let's go back to what we've drawn out before. We've got IP to the desktop. We've got IP here in the WAN, but we still are making and taking our phone calls via traditional telephone service, digital lines or analog lines. What it does lead to is, when are you going to be able to use Internet Protocol or IP technology to make your outbound calls? Well, there is a technology out there called SIP. It's called Session Internet Protocol, and I'm not going to get into all the nuances of it. But what it allows you to do is it allows you to combine your voice, your data, and even your video, and you get some economies of scale on one single pipe, if you will, on one single set of facilities where you can take all of your traffic and put it in, and you get economies of scale because you're able to aggregate all that traffic. The beautiful thing about ShoreTel is we're already ready to take a SIP trunk. The problem is that the providers in the world, the Paytechs, the Verizon, the AT&Ts, the Quests, whoever it happens to be, have not agreed on having a set of standards for SIP protocol. The whole idea of a standard is to have some commonality. So when these particular companies are ready to provide SIP trunks, ShoreTel is ready to take them. We're ready to take them today. Okay? So overall, this is just meant to give you an idea so you can explain to folks when you're presenting to them what it means to be pure IP. IP desktop, IP WAN, IP here ultimately on the trunk side, your connectivity to the outside world. But right now, more than likely, you're going to be looking at digital facilities or analog.